Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are
Good, thank
you?
you. Are you excited to get started?
A bit nervous, not gonna
Fair enough,
lie.
fair enough. It's a bit nerve-wracking, I'll be honest, joining a live and having such a big audience and obviously fielding their questions. But that's exactly what we're
Mm.
here to do today. So if you do have any questions for Alia, please feel free to ask them. I put her information on the screen so everyone knows exactly where she's from, what campus she was on, what program she was in, all that sort of stuff. Um, For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jordan. I am the International New and Social Media Officer at Lakehead University with an international enrollment. And I will pass it over to Alia to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Alia. I'm from Malaysia, and I took Kinesiology at the Thunder Bay campus.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. So to help our audience kind of get to know you a bit more, of course, we'll be going over your student experience, your academic experience, all that sort of stuff. Um, but could you maybe share a fun fact about yourself? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I bought my
Awesome.
first piano during my fourth year,
And
and I'm still learning it.
yeah, you bought that back in Thunder Bay, eh?
Yes, I did.
So um, the first questions I always like to I ask is kind of what made you want to study abroad in Canada and then also at Lake.
Well, at first, Canada wasn't really an option for me. It wasn't something I was looking at, but I did the Canadian International Matriculation Program in
Hmm.
Malaysia, and because of that, I gained interest in Canada, and I chose Lakehead because of the smaller classes.
Awesome. And so just to clarify, the Canadian international program that you completed in Malaysia, was that 1 year program or was that your entire high school?
Oh, it was just a 1 year program. It's equivalent to year 12 in Canada.
Okay, and so you got a better idea of the Canadian education system, and then that's kind of what sparked your interest to say, hey, maybe I want to start doing a university there. And obviously, I know you had mentioned that you were excited to study in Canada, or you were at least interested in to study, but then you ended
Yeah.
up picking Lakehead because of the smaller class sizes. And so far,
Yeah.
in your experience with the smaller class sizes, have there been any significant benefits with it?
Oh, I think there has been because I was able to interact with my professors more, and it made it easier to build like a relationship with them.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So then the next question I kind of like to ask is a part of that journey. So now you've explored your options, you've selected Lakehead, and now it's about the travel to Lakehead and like that travel all the way to Canada. What were you most excited for, and what were you really nervous about?
Uh, Excited for would probably be the experience, just going to Canada itself, having the independence that I will be getting once I was there.
For sure.
But yeah, and I guess just experiencing the Canadian culture, experiencing winter for the first time.
So would
That
it have been your first
uh,
snowfall too?
yes, it would have. It was my first snowfall.
Awesome.
That was
And how was that? Was
yeah.
that an exciting experience? Was it just as you had hoped? More snow than you expected?
Well, based on movies, I was expecting really bad Canadian winter,
Hmm.
but I wasn't expecting 8 months of winter in Thunder Bay, so that was an adjustment for
For
me,
sure, yeah.
especially yeah.
So when it is winter, obviously, um, it's really important to like stay active, get outdoors, enjoy your time. So what sort of things did you do when it was winter? What was the first few experiences you had?
I went snowboarding.
Okay.
That was really
Yep.
fun. I really enjoyed snowboarding, and as lame as it sounds, I built a snowman, so that was
We're
fun.
all a child at heart, don't worry. I grew up in Thunder Bay. I'm born and raised in Thunder Bay, Canada. And so obviously building a snowman, I take that for granted in the sense that I was a young kid making those all the time with my friends. We were sledding, skiing, snowboarding, all that sort of
Mm,
stuff. But then you don't appreciate it until you realize that when students come from international countries and they join us here, and they're just like blown away by all the activities that you can do and all the different activities you can be involved in. So chatting more about your snowboarding experience, I would love to dive into that. What was it like?
Uh, I was
Yeah,
excited, not gonna lie. I was pretty excited, but as soon as I got on the chairlift and I looked down, I was like, oh, kind of regret this decision now. This is scary.
yeah, that definitely the chairlift can be intimidating when it gets pretty high up, but obviously once you made it to the top of the hill, you had to get off and you had to get back down. So
Oh yeah, that was the only way
yeah,
down. Had to do
I'm
it.
sure it was probably a bit of a
But
rush to go down, and you had a lot of
it was,
adrenaline and maybe a bit of nerves tied in.
yeah, because I went night snowboarding, so it was pretty
Okay,
dark.
yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. Just I pretty much chilled on like the middle part of the hill for a bit, just watching people sled
Yeah, for
down,
sure.
snowboard down. Because I was, yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed it. I would do it again.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I mean, definitely, I can appreciate when you just want to, you can take your time. Like, that's the beauty in it, that you can go down the hill, and then if you feel like stopping and just kind of watching people go by and watching maybe other people tumble, if you're anything like me on skis, I definitely take a couple tumbles. Um,
Oh yeah.
Snowboarding, obviously, I know that you typically fall on your butt quite a bit and your hands, and you catch yourself. So I'm sure your wrists were sore the next day, and your butt was sore too.
Oh, I couldn't move the next day. But I was very proud of all the bruises I had.
Yeah, it's like a badge of warrior or something.
Yeah, badge of
Yeah,
honor.
exactly. And then also speaking to the fact that you were excited to kind of explore Canadian culture and just learn more. So back home in Malaysia, obviously, you're quite familiar with your home country's culture and your family's traditions. What was your experience in Canada like with that culture? And like, did you meet people?
Yeah, I met because obviously we had orientation, the international orientation, but we also had I went for the orientation with people of it from my
Hmm.
department. So I met future classmates. So that's how you start making new friends. But during orientation, everyone was just really nice and really welcoming. So that was great.
Awesome. So now chatting about a same journey, obviously, to Canada, you're excited about so many different things, but at the same time, I can appreciate that you're probably a bit nervous about the journey itself. So what were you
Hmm.
nervous for?
Winter, the
Fair
weather,
enough. Yeah.
that was number. Yeah. So obviously coming from a country that is very hot, it's just tropical. I did not know what to expect. So I was nervous about that, but got used to it in the end. So that's good.
Awesome.
And I guess just interacting people outside of my comfort zone,
Hmm.
because going to a new country, you would obviously have different what do you call cultures and ways of interacting with one
For
another,
sure.
I
Yeah.
would say.
You grow up, it's
So just learn.
based on where you live, you kind of grow up and you're used to interacting with um, people that has similar beliefs, similar religions, um, similar thought processes, and also similar experiences. That's really what it's about, is that when I grow up in Thunder Bay, I can go to a fellow Thunder Bayite and kind of have a similar experience with them and know, like, oh, we've been swimming in the same lake. We know about the winters, we know about how beautiful the summers are, all that sort of stuff. But then when you're coming from like a tropical country and a very different climate and different people too, it's all about those experiences, and are you going to be able to connect with these people and interact with them on the same level that you were before? So
Yeah.
based on that nervousness and like that concern, what was that experience? Did you end up making friends? How did you make friends?
Well, most of my friends that like during first year, you obviously make friends with people from your what's it called, your
Hmm.
classes. But the closest friends I have are the ones I made in residence, because we all lived in the same buildings, so we saw each other almost every day, kind of thing.
For sure.
So, yeah.
And then meeting those friends, did you feel like that you had gained, obviously you had gained the friend themselves, but did you feel like that enriched your experience to learn more about sort of their beliefs and their culture?
Yeah, most definitely, because most of the friends I've made were Canadians themselves. So they taught me things like you call a $1 a loonie, a $2 a toonie. I didn't know that thing was, that was a
For
thing
sure.
until they were like, so I was just like, okay. They brought me to my first Tim Hortons.
Awesome.
So
That's funny because for our viewers right now, when you do arrive in Canada, you will definitely hear about Tim Hortons. It's a Canadian tradition. It's a staple for all Canadians. It's something that when I'm at work, obviously we're at a unique situation right now working from home, but when I do go into work, I typically stop and grab my double double, which is a coffee, and I get it from Timmy's, as we say. So it's just the small things that you pick up. And did you end up calling it Timmy's yourself and becoming quite a regular fan?
I like their Timbits.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that Timbits. I actually brought back, they have the Timbit cereal
Yep.
now. I brought that back.
You had to show some people back
Yeah.
home, or are you keeping that close to your chest and not
Oh,
showing it?
that's for myself. That's a piece of Canada for myself.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Whenever you need more Timbit cereal, you let me know and maybe I'll ship you some.
Oh, and I tried
Hmm.
Persians in Thunder Bay because it's just in Thunder Bay, right? It's famous in
Yep.
Thunder Bay. And so that was pretty good. And Hoito, I enjoyed Hoito
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
there's a lot of unique things to Thunder Bay and a lot of specialties and homegrown cultures and foods here. And so we love sharing that with our students, and we obviously working with our International Student Services Department to kind of plan excursions, but also just share some of that sort of stuff. I know it's a tradition at our typical convocation ceremony where students will walk across the stage, and then once the ceremony wraps up, we have the Persians actually in yellow and blue. They typically come in like a pink icing on top. But we
Icing.
dye it blue and yellow for our Lakehead colors, and that's how we celebrate. And that's been a tradition for as long as I've been at Lakehead. I'm an alum of Lakehead, so I graduated last year out of the business program. And you just wrapped up the kinesiology program, so we're both alum now,
Yes.
which is very exciting.
Yes.
Was there anything else that you were nervous about when you were making that journey to Canada?
I guess it's just, mostly just connecting with people, you know, just being able to connect with people. That was one of my biggest
For
worries.
sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I know that you had mentioned this before, but you had met plenty of Canadian friends in that first year, and then also within residence. Did you get the opportunity to, like you said, you were excited to explore Canadian culture? Did you get an opportunity to go and have any celebrations with those friends on holidays? Because I know that you would have been here for Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if you're here for Christmas, but
Yeah, I celebrated my first Thanksgiving during first year. That was really fun. So, a friend of mine was nice enough to invite me over to her house for Thanksgiving. I enjoyed it very much.
is there any like fond memories or really specific memories from that?
Oh, food-wise, it was the sweet potato pie, or I guess you call it a casserole, and pumpkin
Mm-hmm,
pie.
for sure.
And we also had a little bonfire.
Okay, yeah. Did you get to roast marshmallows out on the bonfire, or did you just kind of hang out there?
We did both. We just roasted and just chilled and just looked at it because she lived pretty outskirt of town, so you could see the stars kind
Oh
of
yeah.
thing. So it was really nice. I
There's
enjoyed it.
definitely that's one really unique thing to both of our campuses is because um, we're located in smaller cities comparably. That when you do drive maybe 5-10 minutes away from campus, you're not dealing with the what they would say is light pollution, and then all of a sudden you get to see so many more stars. And I know that's something for international students. They're really excited to see like aurora borealis or northern lights.
Yeah.
Did you get an opportunity to check them out while you were here?
No, but I did go hunting for them with my
Hmm.
friends. and we spent like a good, I think we spent the whole night in the car just waiting, but it didn't come out because it was so
Oh,
cloudy.
fair enough. Yeah.
So
I mean, the weather channels are able to somewhat predict when they're going to be coming out, when they're going to be most active. I know that one of your good friends, Sylvius, who joined us on one of our Instagram lives a few weeks ago, he was able to see them, and he had waited up for a few hours. He was out till, I believe he said 3 in the morning trying to look at them. So as you can appreciate, it takes a bit of effort to see them, but once you do get to see them, they're amazing for sure.
but I'd like to add, if you do go and try to hunt for them, please bring blankets, lots of them.
For sure, yeah.
It's cold.
When it's nighttime, I mean, the sun's gone, it can cool off for sure. My favorite time is obviously to hunt them in the summer because it's so beautiful, and like you can still get away with wearing shorts and a t-shirt at night, and there's no concerns with that. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
see if we have questions. Like I've seen a few rolling in. There's one. Is there a PhD for civil engineering? So just let me pull up the programs list. So for our engineering, the PhD that we offer is electrical and computer engineering. If you are interested in exploring the full programs list, if you visit us at lakeheadu.ca/programs, that's a great way to connect and see what we offer at the undergrad level, what we offer at the grad level, all that sort of stuff. Awesome. So there is a question, how is University of Lakehead? So how was your experience so far at Lakehead?
I enjoyed it. It's a really nice place to study because it's not a big city, so there aren't a lot of things to do. It's basically the same things, compared to if you were in Toronto, and you really focus on your academics there.
For sure, yeah.
Well, I did.
Yeah, and the nice thing about having obviously the smaller city, I mean, we still have access to the full amenities of a typical large city, and we're connected to the international airport here in Thunder Bay, so we're close flight to Toronto and close flight home to any one of those major cities. But then you also can step back and like the access to nature and kind of the peace and quiet that's involved. What I've heard from many students is the fact that they come from really large cities, that they're always dealing with traffic jams and pollution and just like constant noise and distraction. But then when they get here, they feel this peace and calm, and they can focus on their academics while still being able to do so many different adventures around the city. Obviously, you have to explore all those adventures, and you have to find your niche. So whether you're an outdoorsy person or whether you just have a passion for going to the mall or going to local shops and spending your money, so be it. That's up to you. But obviously, we want you to explore all the options that you have till you find something that you truly love. Alrighty, so the next thing I would love to chat about is academics. And so the first question I always have is kind of how did you pick your program? But before we even answer that, let's dive into what your dream job was.
My dream job was to be a BMX rider when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah. And how did that work out for you?
Not that well. I don't have a bike anymore.
Fair enough.
Haven't gone cycling for the last 6 years, I think.
Was there anything that, what was the point where you realized, like, okay, I don't know if BMX is going to be my thing anymore?
I couldn't do the tricks. I was too scared.
Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure. That's like me on skis. When I'm going down the hill, it's like maybe a little jump or a little bump I'll hit. But any of the big tricks that they have in the terrain parks, any of those rails, you won't catch me on those because I know that I won't do it very good. So I'll stick to what I'm best at. So obviously you decided that BMX riding was not going to be in for your future. And so then how did kinesiology kind of work in there? What was your passions that kind of drove you to pick that program?
Well, I was in high school. I enjoyed biology, especially the anatomy portion, like, human body and stuff like that. So at first I was interested in medicine,
Yeah, for sure.
but I realized, yeah, but a lot of people were saying, you need chemistry for that, and I really don't like chemistry. So I was like, okay, maybe not medicine. So I looked into a bunch of stuff, like things, occupations relating to the human body, anatomy, and stuff like that. And I found, you could do physiotherapy, occupational therapy, those kinds of things. But it was very specific, and I didn't know if I would like it because those are practical things. And just reading about it, I just didn't want to regret my decision. So I looked into it more and found kinesiology, kin. And it was a very broad program where it encompasses a lot of these things. So that's why I chose kin.
Awesome. So then, I know you mentioned that you were interested in medicine, but then you also enjoyed the biology aspect, the anatomy, the human body, and you weren't the biggest fan of chemistry. So you also mentioned that once you started to explore kinesiology, you realized that there was a few different paths within rec therapy and physiotherapy. Have you made a decision as to sort of what path that you think you'll explore a little more?
I'm hoping to do physiotherapy because there's a class actually that's related to physiotherapy that you will learn in the kin program, and that's what sparked my interest, I guess.
Awesome. So we have another question. What has been your favorite class and why?
I have two favorite classes.
Fair enough, yeah.
One is I have biomechanics and musculoskeletal injuries.
Okay, I'm not going to try and say either of those. I'm definitely more a business student. I know finance, marketing, human resources, all that. I'm not too much in the anatomy or biology aspect. But could you chat first about the biomechanics class maybe and kind of why you liked it so much?
Okay. So biomechanics, you have to take that during your second year, I believe. Yeah, second year. And that's like you have to take, every kin student has to take that. So that sparked my interest in biomechanics. You learn how, you learn the usual, there's calculations involved, so that's why I kind of liked it. So you learn about how what's the word, like the force needed to do a certain task. So like if you need to, push a box in a ergonomical way, which one would be the best kind of thing. And you get to play with cool cool toys. You have the EMG, you have the force plates. So that's fun.
Awesome. And then the second class that you talked about injuries. I'm not going to try the first part. Can you kind of chat about why you like that class and what a typical day looked like even?
So musculoskeletal injuries 1 is a must for all kin students. You learn the typical injuries. So like if somebody had a not broken wrist, like someone came to you and was just complaining about their wrist, you learn how to assess it and see if it's broken or sprained kind of thing. And we have lab components in this course, so they allow you to get a bit hands-on. So you practice with your classmates and stuff. So that's
awesome.
fun.
So for example, if the scenario was that one of your patients, i.e. in a classroom environment, it's one of your peers, a classmate, has started complaining about their wrist, you get to actually hands-on assess their wrist and kind of do an analysis or an evaluation to see what's going on with it and what the treatment process might look like. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's guided by your instructor too.
Yeah.
And you were going to say something else.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
I forgot what I was going to say.
No worries, no worries. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So speaking about that, like hands-on, almost research component of it, have you been involved in any research within your program?
Yes. So in 4th year, you have to do a thesis. So I had to do my thesis this year. And I guess that's the research component of it. We also have research classes beforehand.
And so what was your thesis around? What was the theme or topic that you really dove into?
So my group and I, we looked at lifting
Mhm.
techniques and and how it affects your muscles, your back muscles.
So lifting, I'm assuming heavy
That's
objects off of the ground.
yes, but we didn't really use heavy objects because our participants were students and not people who actually lift in their daily
For sure,
lives.
yeah. So what did the research entail? I'm assuming there's at least two theories or two sections to it. So I'm sure maybe looking at improper lifting and then proper lifting.
Yeah, so we had two sessions. During the first session, we had the participants come in and lift the
Hmm.
box as they normally would, and they were hooked up with an EMG machine. So we looked at their backs and their muscles during that time. And the second time, we made them watch a video.
Hmm.
And this was a video that was from a courier company, and they used this video for their safety classes and
For
whatnot.
sure, yeah.
So after that, we just asked them to lift the box based on the video
So
and see if there were any
so
differences.
in the first scenario, you just told people simply lift this object, lift this box, and then you had a machine hooked up to them so that it was tracking sort of what strains were being put on their muscles and how they were reacting, how their body was reacting to that lift function. And then in the second
Yes.
part, you had them hooked up to all the same thing, same process, but before they even did that, you made them watch a training video or a video that explained how to properly lift to have less strain on their body. So based
Mm-hmm.
on your analysis, what did you find? I'm really interested to hear uh, what the results were.
Uh, our results weren't what we were expecting,
Hmm.
honestly. But I guess because of the situation we were in, we only had so few participants. It was very hard for us to get a proper an accurate
For
result
sure,
as
yeah, and
well.
having a large test pool, I'm sure, like if you're doing a true industry study, I'm sure that companies will hire out thousands of people to conduct the exact same test
Yeah.
or experiment. In the case of doing that, did you also have lots of kinesiology students lifting the boxes?
Um, no, we didn't have any kinesiology students lifting the boxes.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
kind of came in with like no knowledge about even what the study was about necessarily. They didn't have the kin background at least to say like, well, I based on just being in kin, I know how to properly lift a box so that I'm not going to strain my
Mm,
back. So that's definitely that's
yeah.
interesting to see and hear, but also very cool that you got to participate in your undergraduate degree in such an important research project, and as a part of your kind of like capstone or ending the 4 years.
Yeah.
So now I'd love to move on, and I know we've briefly covered the fact that you lived on residence and
Mm-hmm.
you were on campus. So let's dive into that a little more. What was residence living like for you?
So residents, you can live in the apartments or the
Hmm.
townhouses, and I lived in both. And I would say I enjoy the apartments more because laundry was outside if you lived in the townhouses.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you live in the townhouses, for those of you that aren't familiar, the townhouses are a two-story unit with four bedrooms, one bathroom, a shared dining room, living room, and kitchen. Um, it also has a storage unit within the house itself, I should say. But then the laundry facilities are located in a centralized building for a few of those or the townhouses. Whereas in apartments, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the laundry located for each floor. There's a laundry room, and it's attached to
Yeah.
the social lounge for that floor.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so you preferred apartments. Um, what was your experience like for your roommates and meeting friends and whatnot?
First year, housemate wise, not very great. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest. But Friendship-wise, I met a lot of people through rest spots. So they have that every week on Saturdays.
For sure.
So you get to meet a lot of people from the same building, and that's how I made most of my friends.
Awesome. So even though you didn't necessarily have an ideal roommate selection, or maybe there's just some butting heads, we won't dive into that, but obviously you were still able to make friends and connect with people within residence. And I'm sure then some of those people that you may have met influenced your decision to stay on campus, and potentially did you end up rooming up with any of those people for the townhouse?
Yeah, I've lived with them for the last 3 years now, up until graduation.
For sure, yeah. So once you meet those people and establish those connections, so like you said, being involved in res sports and every Saturday getting the opportunity to have an organized activity or sport to interact, I'm sure that you didn't just see them on Saturdays. I'm sure that you filled every day and every week possible with seeing your friends, but that helped grow your friendship and then obviously set the foundation for being comfortable to live with the same group for the next 3 years. So I'm sure that was probably hard to say goodbye to them after 3 years, because you've probably become extremely close. How do you stay connected with them now?
We have our WhatsApp group. We still use it sometimes.
Awesome.
And sometimes we just send random memes to each other and videos and be like, oh my God, this is you.
I'm sure living with someone else, you really get to know someone on another level in that sense. So being able to connect with them and just poke fun maybe, or send those memes, I'm sure they appreciate that just as you would appreciate if they sent a meme like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of you, Alia, like, holy man. So while you're living on campus, you lived in both the townhouses and the apartments, which have the full kitchen set up. But food-wise, what was your experience like for cooking food, maybe getting a meal plan? I'm not familiar whether you got one, or just eating food on campus in general.
I didn't get a meal plan, but one of my housemates did. So he took the meal plan instead of just cooking every day. So you can do that. But I choose to cook every day.
Fair enough.
Just to have my own groceries.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's the really nice thing about living in apartments and townhouses, is the flexibility of choice. So meal plans are not mandatory for those options, but you can opt into it. Just like you said, your roommate had chose to opt into it, wanted to maybe just focus on social and academics, and didn't want to worry about the cooking portion. With your experience of cooking, though, after 4 years, do you think that your skills have improved dramatically? Do you feel more independent? Or are you still kind of like, ooh, I need some room?
I wouldn't say I'm a great cook, but I can cook to survive.
Fair enough, yeah. And cooking is one of those things, like, it's an ongoing life lesson. It's not meant to, you're not meant to, in first couple months, become the master chef. I mean, I don't cook very often myself, but when I do, like, the meals that I'm confident in, I think they turn out pretty decent. I've never heard complaints from my friends. But then if I'm trying to experiment with a new meal, it's trial and error.
Takes a while.
Hit or miss, I'll be honest. But that's something that I definitely want to get into this summer. And just, I was with a student, Bright, from Nigeria. She's in our undergraduate chemistry program. She was on live with me last Thursday, and she was telling me about how she cooked tons of Nigerian food for the last couple of years, but then this summer she's decided she wants to dive into other cultures. So she wants to start cooking Italian cuisine, Canadian cuisine, just anything and everything around the world. And that really sparked an interest in me. So I think if I'm feeling ambitious, I think I might try it myself.
That's very cool.
So then I would love to also chat a little more about meeting people on campus. So when you were on campus, obviously, like we've covered, you lived on residence for the 4 years. You studied in an undergraduate program. Were you also involved in any clubs or any extracurriculars that helped you meet people?
There were a few. I volunteered at the food bank a few times, so that was nice. Met a few people there. I'm also in the Global Ambassador program with you
For
guys.
sure, yeah.
So met a bunch of people there as well.
For our viewers,
And
I'll give a brief explanation of the Global Ambassador Program. And then I think I know what you're going to chat about next, so I want to save some time too. But the Global Ambassador Program is a group of current students on campus in Thunder Bay who are from, whether there's no set recommendation, so they could be international, they could be domestic, they're from anyone, as long as they're a current student on the Thunder Bay campus, they can join the Global Ambassador Program, and they're kind of the champions of campus, so they're really prideful to be here, and they're sharing their experience, and they help with a lot of different activities. So when we go out and host events on campus, we're kind of the group that will go to that event and really support it and drive people there. We're also doing lots of social media efforts. So hosting them, they're chatting about their experience. Although it was cut short due to the current situation, we had hoped to do some volunteer opportunities where we went to the shelter house and cooked, did a spring cleanup maybe. Being the coordinator of the program myself, I'm always interested in hoping to guide the program where the current students want to go. So even though we have 40 students, I try and listen to each of them to hear about what they want to be involved in and what difference they want to make for the campus, but also for the larger community. And so when we onboarded the 40 plus students to join us, we had a really great training retreat where we all got to bond and get to know each other and learn about each other. And there's so much that we went into. So that program will, of course, be moving forward. Even though we'll see some people graduate out of the program, we hope to even continue growing it after that. So what else were you going to add about another club that you were involved in? Sorry.
I was in, well, I started this year. It was the Lakehead Martial Arts. So that was my workout.
Awesome. And what did that entail? Did you do practices on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or whenever you felt like it?
We met up twice a week. So it was after classes, at night kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's when, and it was free lessons, so why not?
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably started to make friends within there too. You wouldn't keep going to the group if you hadn't met some interesting people, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I see a really great question. I want to know how many students are there in a class. So there's a general number that we have ran all those numbers. Our data people here at Lakehead have done that. So 90% of all Lakehead classes are less than 60 students, and 60% of our classes are less than 30 students. And we also have a really small student-to-faculty ratio. For every 15 students on the Thunder Bay campus, we have one dedicated faculty member. And for every 13 students on the Aurelia campus, we have one dedicated faculty member. So that's something that we've kind of really committed to, because we understand that a student's success is also found in access to their faculty members, but also being able to connect within a small classroom environment. What was your experience like? What was your typical class size in most cases?
It was, I think, at the end of my program, there's only 60 people in my program that will be graduating, if I'm not mistaken. And because we had our core classes for 4th year, so everyone would be in that class.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Your video cut out just for a second there. You were just saying that in your 4th year, the core courses typically saw the full class roster of roughly 60 students, but then you were going to elaborate, I think, on electives.
Yeah, I think in electives, you could have as small as 5 people in a class and as many as 20.
For sure, yeah. So then there's another question here. What is the scope of the fall intake? So that's it sounds like it's a question more related to the current situation with COVID-19. So I can talk about that briefly. The fact is that we are encouraging students to move forward with their applications for fall 2020, pardon me. We are going to be offering courses this fall, no matter what. Of course, there's questions that need to be answered, and right now, our answer, unfortunately, is it's simply too early to make some of these key decisions about what method of delivery that will be in. So whether these courses will be offered in person, whether they'll be offered online, or whether there's going to be an alternative method of offering them. Those decisions have not been made yet because it's simply too early. What I can tell you is that we are working individually with students so that if there are issues with submitting your confirmation deposit, submitting your final documents to secure your conditions on your offer letter, please reach out to our admissions teams directly and we'll be happy to work with you. Because of course, like I've said, we are moving forward with the fall semester no matter what. So it's something that I want to reinforce. So there's a question. I don't know if you understand it so much, but they were wondering what are your future now? So maybe sort of what are you planning for the future? What do you have in store for it?
Well, I'm hoping to do my master's, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Still in the midst of deciding where and when.
For sure, yeah.
I guess.
You have you decided whether you want to take maybe a break or just continue pushing through?
Well, based on the situation right now, I feel like a break is a given.
Fair enough, yeah.
So I'll just apply and see what happens then.
Mm-hmm. And obviously that's your personal choice to choose to have that break and then kind of somewhat delay. So starting your master's maybe later and then after you complete your master's, do you think that you'll move on to, I believe you said that you were interested in physiotherapy?
Yes.
And so there's more schooling involved in that typically, right? Okay. So another question, will you ever go back to Canada in the future? That's a great question.
Ooh. I hope so, maybe. I don't know.
For sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, so obviously options are open for you right now. It's such a new world. You've just finished your courses and now there's so many options. You can kind of choose where you want to continue with your next step and whether you do go on to education or whether you look for a career. But like you said, you do hope to be in Canada, whether it's hopefully joining us here for another degree, maybe moving here eventually, getting a career here, or just for a visit too. I'm sure, like you said, you made plenty of friends, so you'll probably want to see them eventually. Another question, are there any online courses for kinesiology?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure you can ask someone.
For sure, yeah.
On Lakehead.
So prior to COVID-19, all of your courses were in person, correct? Okay,
Yes.
and those are the kinesiology specific courses. So now, given the current situation, if there are any courses that were being offered in the spring or summer for the kinesiology department, we have already committed to having them online, and those courses actually start, if I'm not mistaken, in the next few days here. But otherwise, right now, of course, we are looking at all the options and all the methods of delivery. But like I said, that decision has not been made for future intakes, of course. What will you miss most from Lakehead? Oh, I like that question.
Can I just Thunder Bay in general, or does it have to be Lakehead? I'm gonna say Thunder Bay in
For
general.
sure, yeah, you can. If you fell in love with Thunder Bay, that's what we love to hear.
I'm gonna miss being able to hike up the Sleeping Giant and Mount McKay.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. I really love Sleeping Giant.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a great getaway if you just need to relax and get back to nature in a sense, or de-stress. I know that studying, I can appreciate just finishing my undergrad myself not too long ago. I also felt the stresses of school, and being able to kind of leave campus and be on a trail or a hiking trail within a few minutes is really great. Even on campus too, I've heard plenty of students that live in residence, they'll simply leave the academic buildings and walk around Lake Tamlin, walk through some of the trails on campus, or if you're on the Alia campus, I've heard that students will kind of walk out of campus and walk across the fields. Just down the road, about 2 minutes of a walk, there's something called Scout Valley, which is like a park where there's trails also and you can explore. So another question, I want to know if there's any scholarships. So that's a really great question. For students pursuing an undergraduate degree or undergraduate studies, there are entrance scholarships. So give me 1 second to pull up the full details on those. I don't want to misspeak on them, that's for sure. One really nice thing about our undergraduate scholarship is that they're automatically applied and you are automatically considered. So the minute that you submit your application to Lakehead University, you will be considered for an undergraduate scholarship. So for example, if you do have a Canadian equivalent academic average of 75 to 79.9, you would receive $4,000 for year one. And then if you have between an 80 and an 89.9, you would receive a $20,000 scholarship, which is broken up into $5,000 each year. So for your 4-year undergrad, you would have $5,000 each year. And then for 90% and above, again, these are Canadian equivalent averages, you would receive a $30,000 scholarship, which is $7,500 each year for all 4 years. For both the 80 to 89 and 90 plus scholarships, if you do wish to get that scholarship and retain that scholarship in year 2, 3, and 4, you just have to meet the minimum requirement of the lower half of that, which is 80%. So if you meet that 80% threshold, you will be set to receive that that scholarship in year 2, 3, and 4, and so on. Did you have any part-time jobs during your 4 years?
No, I did not.
Fair enough, yeah. So I can speak to that, the part-time job experience. I mean, as a student myself, I had multiple part-time jobs. I worked at a restaurant, I worked on campus, and then I did some side jobs too. But speaking of the international student experience, we actually hire quite a few international students within our international student services. I know one of your best friends, Sylvius, worked for us in international student services. But there's lots of other students that will also work within the community and within other departments on campus. So there are definitely part-time jobs available for students. It's based on kind of your skill set, your passions, where you want to work. And we have a career services department, so it's called the Career Zone. It just opened in January, and that's run out of our Student Success Center. And so we have resume workshops, we have peer reviews, we have mock interview opportunities. We also bring employers on campus for career fairs and summer job fairs. So it's really great to kind of get involved in that. Another question, how did you handle that with your studies? So it sounds like it might be related to the part-time jobs. So it was definitely something that you had to work on. I had to be very organized. I kept a good calendar, I could say, is that once I got my schedule from work, obviously I already knew my class schedule. And then as I planned out my week, I understood like, okay, if I have an assignment coming up, I need to dedicate this evening to that assignment, or at least a few hours during the day to that assignment. And then I would treat myself. So once I had accomplished finishing an assignment, doing a test, studying, all that sort of stuff, that's when I would start to work in that social stuff and seeing my friends. Because I'll reiterate to and echo kind of what Alia has said, is having friends and having that support system is so important in your academic career. If you had to take a different major there, what would it be and why? Oh, I love these questions.
Oh.
These are some good questions.
Oh, I never actually thought about this. I guess psychology, because I'm taking a minor in it.
Okay, awesome.
So I feel
you were able to do your degree in kinesiology, but now you also have a psychology minor. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's going to play really well into maybe that physiotherapy and having that psychology degree. So you can kind of make the connections. Psychology explores like, I don't know how to summarize it nicely. Maybe you know how to summarize psychology in a nicer way than I do.
It's just, I guess, having the able to relate and understand.
Understand, like almost like how the mind processes and how the body or how a person processes maybe emotions or stress. And that would connect really well to kinesiology, because I'm sure that you probably saw maybe in case studies or some of your research, stress-related work injuries or stress-related injuries or strains on the body. And so having that aspect to know anatomy-wise, human body-wise, what's going on, where is the pain coming from, but then also being able to speak like, okay, well, if you're stressed within work psychologically, this could be connected. So that's really great to hear, and obviously I'm sure that will play well into your applications for future education too. Is there anything in Thunder Bay you wish you had explored or experienced more?
I kind of wish I went out more to like most of the cafes, especially in waterfront area, because it's just really pretty there.
So just exploring like downtown local shops, maybe taking a little more time to yourself to sit down in a cafe and enjoy a coffee or a tea or just a snack.
Yeah,
I can definitely,
just
I can speak to the fact that we have plenty of great cafes and roasteries and all that sort of stuff. One of our favorite things, me and my colleagues within International, we like to go down to a roastery called St. Paul's Roastery, and we all get our cappuccinos, our lattes, our flat whites, all that sort of stuff, and it gives us the boost to finish off a week or something. So it's a nice treat, and like you said, it's right down by the waterfront in Thunder Bay, which has an amazing view, and just it's so serene down there. So it's definitely nice. Another question: what is the best part about studying kinesiology, and what was the hardest part?
Oh, good question. I guess the best part for me was just being able to learn things that I was interested in. Just, you know?
Yeah, so being able
But
to learn kinesiology, but then, like you said, having the biology aspect, having the anatomy aspect, having the human body worked in there. And probably
yeah.
also the best part is maybe not having to do chemistry. I don't know if you may have had to do a bit of it, but not as much as other
Um,
degrees.
we actually had a first year course, chemistry for a first year
Yeah.
course. Did not enjoy that as much, but made it through.
Yeah, and did you, to help you make it through that chemistry course, did you kind of lean on some of your peers within the class, or did you connect with the professor, or did you just push through and get it yourself?
A bit of everything. The professors are very helpful. They'll, you have your office hours, but you could also just see them after class, right after the lectures, and they would just help you. And I had friends who were pretty good at chemistry, so
Yeah, and I'm
ask
sure
them for help as well.
having a smaller class size would play well into being being more comfortable to approach friends within your class and saying like, hey, I think it sounds like you're really getting this concept. Can you help me because I'm a bit lost? And I'm sure you also maybe not in kinesiology or chemistry, sorry, but maybe in other classes people have approached you and asked for your help because you've really grasped the concept. So that's great to hear. So then there's the question, would you take your master's in Canada? And what kind of master's are you looking into after kinesiology?
I am looking into a master's in physiotherapy in Canada as well.
Awesome.
And yeah.
So just being mindful of time, I know that we're pretty close to the hour mark, so I'm going to pull up I'm going to see some other questions here that were submitted on our story. Just give me 1 second. Oh, we have a great question from a fellow Malaysian. So the question is, hi, I'm Malaysian too. I'm considering, how's the university?
I've enjoyed it so far. Like for the last 4 years, I've enjoyed it. It's there's a small Malaysian community now. There's about 13 of us, I guess. So you'll feel at home. You'll probably spend a weekend just playing badminton and eating Malaysian food.
And I know that there's also the Southeast Asian Society on campus, the Student Society.
Yes.
Were you a part of that, or did you get involved with that?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm actually a co-founder. I forgot about that.
Awesome. No worries. So for our viewers now, can you share kind of what that experience was like and why you started it and what you did to be involved in it?
So when I first came to Lakehead, there was only two of us. And as the years progressed, there was an increase of Malaysian students coming in. And all of us kind of just missed having people with the same, I guess, background.
For sure.
Just, hanging out, eating the same type of food, just things that we miss. So that's why we meet the group.
Yeah. And then how did you celebrate that? Like, what, did you meet up on a regular basis? Did you have potlucks? Did you go out to bowling nights?
I wouldn't say a regular basis because everyone had their own plans and their schedules.
Hmm.
But we usually met up during reading week. We would have a day where we would just hang out the entire day together. So we would start with a potluck and end with us playing badminton.
Awesome. So the last question I have for you is, I asked the same question for all students, is what advice would you give to future students?
Um, to keep an open mind and to go out of your comfort zone, because in the last 4 years there were times where I was very hesitant on deciding to pursue something, but I realized that at the end of the day, if I really wanted it, I should just go for it,
For sure, yeah.
and it has helped me a lot now.
Awesome. Well, I would love to thank you for joining us. I know that there's still a few questions, but being mindful of time, I said that I would keep you for an hour. So I will wrap it up here. For those of you that are still watching, we do have another daily live tomorrow. So it's a part of the Lakehead International Live series. It is called the Wednesday Weekly Admissions Update. So it's with our undergraduate and our graduate studies and admissions team. Um, and we answer all sorts of questions regarding admissions. So please feel free to join us there. Our links will be posted on our social media if you are already in our mailing list. So on our applicant pool or our prospect pool, you would have already received an email invite too. And then next Thursday, we will be joined by a student actually in psychology from India. His name is Ritwik. And we'll be chatting about his program, his student experience, similar to what we did today. Otherwise, I would love to thank you for joining me, Alia, and thank you for staying up. I know it's now, I believe, 11 in Malaysia, where you are, 11 a.m. Thunderbay
No
time.
worries.
So thank you for staying up for me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Have a good day.
Alrighty, bye now.